Hello and welcome to the Retro Perspective podcast number 3. I'm Jake and with me again is
Josh. Hi guys.
Once again we're going to round up some gaming news for you. Unfortunately there's a bit of the same kind of news today. Shall we cover that first?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
All this EA bullshit and loot boxes and all that. Doesn't really interest me too much, but it is the hot topic at the moment.
Yeah, without a doubt in the community, and I think I definitely have a bit more of an interest in it, I would say, than yourself.
Sure.
It's,
a lot of stuff that's been going on recently, companies have been backpedaling decisions due to massive backlashes. So for a start, we had EA with Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Loot boxes, which you could unlock Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, only that came after hours and hours and hours worth of play. So they were expecting you to buy those loot boxes, basically. That's the end of it, innit, basically, you know. And
it's absolutely backfired completely on them, because I saw some statistics earlier today, actually. I believe the number was 700,000 copies is what they've sold at the moment, and they were predicting nearer the sort of 3 million mark, and they've actually, EA as a company as a whole, because of that one game, have had to revise their sort of profit forecasts for the year, because it was such a big release for them that they were predicting, and it seems like fans have actually boycotted it somewhat in refusal to sort of put up with this loot box nonsense.
I mean, to me, in my opinion, the 700,000, was it, you said, that had actually been sold is probably from people who will literally buy anything to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, it's fanboys.
If it's Star Wars, they will buy it, basically.
It's fanboys. I mean, to put it into perspective, I think the new Call of Duty has sold somewhere around 4.5 million copies so far.
That's crazy.
That puts it in perspective. They were expecting it to be on a similar kind of level. And rightly so, to be fair. They would have, based on the previous game, would have thought that it was going to be a huge hit, but they've clearly made a massive mistake here and pushed people a bit too far, and people have decided to push back, which is good, I think.
Very good. It's unfortunate that we don't have this kind of thing more often, even outside of gaming, where something bad is going to happen and just loads and loads of people say that's shit. It just doesn't happen that often, so it's nice that we're getting it. Even though I'm not going to go out and buy an EA, game anytime soon anyway. So, so are you familiar with Destiny?
Yep. Not a player of it.
You're not.
I have played it,
okay.
But I'm not a player of it.
They've released some new DLC.
Okay. And
basically, before this DLC came out, you could reach a certain level and get access to end game content, which in like pseudo MMO type games, end game is kind of where you're going, or where you want to be. That's where the fun begins, apparently. So now they've introduced this DLC. They've basically said, unless you buy this DLC, you cannot reach this level to access the end game. And this is another thing that people have backpedaled on. Destiny, the developers Bungie have said, we've listened to your criticisms and we've realised we were wrong by doing this.
It's just gaming seems to have become, in a lot of realms, a lot of different types of popular games now, where progression is kind of, it doesn't actually depend on how good you are at games anymore, which is what it's always been. That's almost what, I mean, I do a lot of training and fitness type stuff, and that's what appeals to me about that. You get exactly what you put in. The more effort you're willing to put in, the better results you're going to get. Simple. And it's always been the same with gaming. The more gameplay time you put in, the better you are at the game, the better results you will get, in effect. You'll get further in the game, you'll get more reward from it, in effect. And now it seems like it's just whoever's going to spend the most money will be the best at the game.
Well,
simple as that.
I mean, this isn't even the worst of it, because you've also got the fact that they've introduced in Destiny 2 a hidden experience scaling system, whereby if you're playing the game a lot and you're going to be leveling up quite fast, they will scale your experience down without actually showing it to you. so that you won't gain levels as fast. So, and obviously these microtransactions are all stuff like, get boosted experience gain or stuff like that.
So the idea behind it is that they know that the players who have got most vested interest in the game, the ones who are playing it the most and love it the most, will obviously want to progress the most as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hold them back to force them into buying.
Exactly.
That's
the only idea, reason for it, really. If you look at it like that.
Yeah, because the people who are not playing a lot are probably not going to spend extra money on the game anyway.
No.
So there's no point in doing it to them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unbelievable, isn't it?
And again, this is something that they've said. You what they should have said actually is, you caught us. Yeah. You caught us in the act, kind of thing. And we're going to stop that now because you've caught us. But what they actually say is, we've heard your feedback, and we're doing everything we can to improve the game based on your feedback.
I don't think it's limited to the gaming world. This kind of behaviour is seeped into the gaming world, I would say. This is the kind of thing that you hear about from politicians, and no matter where you are in the world, I'm sure it's the same.
Yeah.
People doing these kind of hidden things with an agenda just to line their own pockets, at no benefit to the consumer whatsoever. And then they get caught, and it's that were an accident. No, we didn't see it like that. We didn't really view it like that. We just wanted to kind of enhance the experience when in reality it was, how else can we squeeze a bit more money out of this?
Yeah. The final people that backpedaled on something this few weeks has been Patreon. They introduced a sort of a tax, I guess you would call it, on people, not even on the people who are earning the money, the people who are giving the money to these creators on Patreon. They decided to charge them an admin fee, which I didn't even really know that.
What for? What exactly?
Yeah,
what's
what
an
for?
Admin
Exactly.
fee? What's being administrated?
It's like, if you need the money, then you should have put the admin fee before. Because if you obviously need that money, if it's an admin fee.
But it doesn't make any sense anyway, really, does it? Because these are the people funding the content makers, in effect.
Yeah.
So why are they then having to pay extra money for that? Surely, if anything, the tax would be the person making the content.
Yeah, it
Surely
should. Well, that's the way. That's the way it should have been. But a lot of people have been saying this is just an insanely terrible decision, because then people they have to get paid by these people anyway to earn any money at all. So if these people are looking at it and saying, oh well, there's this extra admin fee added on, a lot of people are going to be like, well, no, I'm not going to pay anything. So that's £0 that you're earning instead of like the amount you were earning before. So yeah, people have probably dropped out, and they're probably earning less money as a result of this.
It's very YouTube-esque, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's such a YouTube thing to do.
It seems like once this adpocalypse and everything started, it seems like loads of other companies have been like, oh, we want to be as dumb as YouTube. Let's introduce all these stupid policies that make no sense.
Because I know a lot of YouTubers I watch as well kind of decided to start putting a lot more content on Patreon.
Yeah,
when that all happened with YouTube, because Patreon was seen as like, it's trying to be and do what YouTube originally was all about.
Exactly.
A free media outlet, in effect, that's sort of, people are free to express anything they want in any way they can, and make a living out of it, so that they're able to make great content.
Yeah.
And then they've just kind of,
And what people have started to do on YouTube was, instead of YouTube earning money from ads and them also earning a bit of that, they've said to YouTube, okay, no, you can't put ads on my video, because YouTube gives that option. So you'll earn no ad revenue, and then we'll earn the money through Patreon, which is something I think we will be doing, to be honest, at some point. Very soon, probably.
Yeah, it makes sense, because why would you want to line those people's pockets anymore?
Yeah.
And it's totally ridiculous.
So another massive conversation people have been having in the past few weeks, while we've been very busy, too busy to make a podcast,
very busy.
has been the idea that loot boxes are gambling. A lot of politicians have been sort of putting their opinions forward and trying to make new legislation or whatever. and I'm not a gambler at all. I actually hate gambling in games. I completely... If there's like a slot machine mechanic in a game, I'm just like, no, turn it off immediately. But Josh, on the other hand, enjoys gambling quite a lot. So
well, did I would say. I mean, I'm under no illusion that this is gambling as far as I'm concerned. 100% gambling.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because gambling in gaming, I guess my first exposure to that would have actually been on RuneScape. A game that you probably everyone's probably fairly familiar with if you've played it or not. It was a huge MMORPG for quite a while. Still is, I guess.
Was this an early form of loot box in this?
No, it was actually it were the players that started doing it. So they were, you could get seeds that were very, very inexpensive. They cost nothing in the game basically, and you bought them with game money, not with real world money.
Sure.
And you would plant the seed and a flower would grow instantly, and there'd be different colour combinations.
Yeah.
Now somebody worked out what the odds of getting each colour were. So, blues were very common, blacks were very rare, etc. But they'd worked out how often it would come up.
Okay.
And so people started then taking advantage of this and playing the flower game. Yeah. So people would gamble.
Yeah.
On the outcome. So they trade you the money. Say I trade you 100,000 coins, and I say it's going to be blue. You offer me odds of 3-1. So if I win, I'll get 400,000 coins back. But if I lose all my money. But you know that the odds of it happening are actually much worse. So you're going to win every time in the long run, just like a casino does with roulette or anything like that. Yeah. And my brother actually was one of these people and ran pretty much the biggest clan in RuneScape doing this, and paid for a holiday to Malia with all of the real world money that he sold the money on the game for, because he accumulated so much, literally billions. Maxed out the coins and had to start keeping money in rare items because he couldn't keep any more coins.
So he had to like buy rare items.
Yeah,
so
with the money.
Get rid of the money.
Yeah, because he couldn't keep any more money. He'd maxed out the thing.
That's hilarious.
So really, really ridiculous and funny. But looking back at it, actually now it's quite a few years ago. It was obviously like no different whatsoever.
Yeah.
To a casino taking advantage of people and taking the money, but worse in a way because most of the people playing the game would have been kids.
Yeah, and as a kid you would probably think that something like that is just completely random, like there's no odds of getting a certain thing over another, which is one of the reasons why it is such a big deal that these loot boxes are trying to worm the way into loads of games now. Yeah,
because it is without doubt gambling. Nobody, you don't hear anybody say, "Oh, I just love loot boxes. I don't really care whether I get anything good or not. It's about getting the box. That's what I love." It's like, no, the loving of it is in getting something that gives you an advantage in it.
Yeah,
you get something great and you're loving it. Can't believe how lucky you are. You get something shit and it's like, this is so shit. It's like, what have I just done? I've just wasted my pocket money. Like, and that is gambling all over, isn't it? There's no enjoyment in gambling other than winning. People enjoy that they've got something for nothing in effect, or something better than what they've put in. And this is going to be kids mainly exposed to this.
Yeah.
So I would like to see, and I don't really like politicians getting involved in stuff like this, to be honest, but I think the game industry needs to regulate itself on this and realise what they're doing, and maybe bring in some kind of. And I know people don't really pay attention to the ratings in games, but there's no they can do about that. At least they're gonna try. They should make it so that there's no random loot boxes in games under 18s.
I'm glad you brought that up actually, because one of the problems I have with, as you say, these politicians getting involved. Is a lot of them, as we'll discover on another topic we've got today, assume that all games are for kids.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I have no problem whatsoever, in theory, with loot boxes or gambling in games or anything like that. As long as it's transparent.
Yeah.
Same as a casino. You're going into a casino and it's gambling, and that's that.
Yeah, casinos actually have to put what the odds of you winning or losing are.
Exactly.
So they have leaflets all around the casino saying the odds of each game. So it'll say roulette pays out 35 to 1 on a number, but your chances of actually winning are 36 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see black and white that it's not in. It's the odds are against you, and then it's your choice if you want to carry on. They should do that.
Yeah.
They should say your chance of getting a rare loot is 1 in, chance of very rare 1 in.
Yeah.
And so you can clearly see, hang on a minute, like I've only got a 1 in 2,000 chance of even getting out decent. There's no point because I'm never going to get out.
Yeah.
A lot of people playing the games will be kids, but a lot are also not. So I would say any game that is an under 18 should not have any of this content in there whatsoever.
That's a good rule, yeah. I'd say.
But then anything that's rated an 18, you would be considered old enough in the real world to make an informed decision on whether you want to do it or not.
Yeah.
So therefore in the games, you should be considered old enough to, if you want to spend your money, then, power to you.
Mm-hmm. So, more politicians trying to interfere with games. In the UK, some politicians have been looking at trailers for games, such as Detroit Become Human, which has a couple of really amazing trailers. You just watched
it, yeah, literally first time seeing it, and wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely on the edge of your seat stuff, isn't it?
It's definitely one of my most anticipated games coming up. But let's get into it as to what this politician said. Violence against children is not entertainment. It's not a game. It's a real nightmare for thousands of children who have to live through these kinds of scenarios.
Oh dear.
The makers of this game should be thoroughly ashamed. I think it's perverse. Who thinks beating a child is entertainment? So, let's just get some context on that. The trailer is in Detroit Become Human. You play as one of a group of robots, androids, who have become self-aware. So you're making decisions based on things that are happening to them, just like most other Quantic Dream games. At no point is it saying to you, objective, beat this child.
Quite the opposite, if anything.
Yeah, like you probably have to decide as to whether you're gonna step in and save this child, or try and be more self-preservation kind of thing. And that'll be the grey area of this game. It just draws me back to the time when it was like Grand Theft Auto, points for killing prostitutes, and it's like no point is the points or killing prostitutes gets you anywhere or anything like that.
But you will do it.
Well,
you will do it
if it takes your fancy, yeah.
To me, it's so obviously just political grandstanding as well by these people, like just wanting to get their moment in the spotlight, something to talk about, because I'm pretty certain that like programs like Coronation Street and EastEnders and stuff have had storylines around domestic abuse and sort of stuff like this.
But that's where I say they seem to just not understand what a game is. If they think if you see something in a game, you're acting that out in the game, but that's not always the case.
Well, it's Manhunt all over again. For straight away, I said to you after I'd watched it, the first thing that came to mind with me was Manhunt. And probably most of you will remember, quite a while ago now when that game came out, it was seen as, you can't go around just murdering people as the objective of the game, it's going to turn everyone into murderers. And then lo and behold, someone goes on a massacre in America, which happens every other week anyway, and
they
just happen to own a copy of Manhunt, ergo... he learned how to murder people by playing Manhunt and was inspired by the game to become a murderer. But previously, he was an angel. It's totally ridiculous. So one person out of how many millions of people will have played that game, goes and does something like that.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's, how many people have played Need for Speed? And are they all going around putting lights under the cars and and tribal decals on the side of them and smashing into people, driving like mentalists. No, obviously not.
Yeah.
Call of Duty has just sold 4 million copies. Am I about to go off to war? No, I'm not, because I'm thinking, oh, do you know what? I think I'd be great at no-scoping in Iraq. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's endless examples.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just totally ridiculous.
That is an interesting idea that I haven't really thought about, is, are these politicians trying to get their moment in the spotlight to be, what's the word? Career politicians?
Career politicians, yeah exactly. And what it stinks of to me is, we all know politicians and politics is sort of something for the older generation, if you like, is how it's viewed. The grey vote people talk about. Most people who vote are of an older age, because generally, and I do think it's changing a little actually, but generally younger people don't tend to be as interested in politics and things. They kind of think it doesn't really matter as much, although that is changing. And I see this as, they've thought to themselves, oh well, hang on a minute, again misinformed, but they've thought to themselves, oh well, only young people play video games, so this is a chance to sort of...
And older people don't understand it as much.
older people don't understand it, so this is a chance to speak to the younger generation and get a load of younger generation voters on our side, kind of thing. And but obviously that's completely backfired, because I think most of the sort of gaming community would look at this and just think to themselves, you clearly do not have a clue about video games. You think video games are limited to Bubble Bobble. It's like, if it's not all fairies and nice, then that's not a game. As you say, I think it's politicians sticking their noses in something that they know nothing about, and just assuming that, oh, well, only young people play video games, only kids play video games, so what are we doing letting kids see stuff like this?
Yeah.
When in reality it's just not the case. And if they'd have come out and they knew what they were on about, and they'd have come out and said, do you know what, I think it's about time we look at regulations in terms of age restrictions on video games, and that it's not being implemented properly, because we've got games like this that are dealing with really quite sort of serious adult themes, and it's too easy for young people who are not old enough that should be to play the game to get a hold of it and play it. If they'd have come out and said that, I could have respect for that, because definitely I think if you're 14, 13, 12, maybe you won't have the kind of capacity to process some of the themes that are going on there properly, and maybe it will sort of change the way you're thinking about things. It will
trigger you.
Yeah, it might trigger you. It will definitely trigger you. If you're a millennial, you will be triggered. So I'd have had respect for them if they'd have come out and said that, and said, do you know what, actually, it's about time we looked at this, the film industry and the gaming industry, because it's too easy for people to get a hold of. You can't just go in a casino if you're under 18. It's impossible. Unless you've got an unbelievably good fake ID, you're not going to get away with it, because it's very thorough. But it's so easy to get your hands on an 18 rated game.
Yeah.
But maybe they do need to look at that, how they can make it harder. Make it so, like with alcohol, so that you have to, it's 21,
it's
21.
It's parents, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, parenting, so you need...
then I don't think there's any way of actually enforcing this towards parents to say, okay, don't buy this for your child, because it's always happened. And if it hadn't have happened, I wouldn't have watched or played anything when I was a kid, really, because it was all 18 stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I've definitely but maybe, I do know what you're saying, but obviously I would like to think we were quite level-headed. Yeah,
whereas not a lot of kids nowadays aren't that much.
Absolutely. Not everyone is going to be, and whereas, to be honest, actually, I played games when I were younger that, looking back now, I definitely shouldn't have been playing. Like, some games gave me Silent Hill. There's no way I should have been playing that at such a young age. Like, as much as I'd enjoyed it, it also gave me nightmares big time. It was horrific. I definitely shouldn't have been playing it.
Okay.
So maybe if I think I'd like to see a move maybe towards like what they've done maybe with cigarettes and stuff like that, so the packaging, so that it's obvious to parents who are buying that, hang on a minute, this this game really definitely isn't suitable for young people. because then the adults, it doesn't matter to them, because they're going to be informed, they're going to know what they want, and they're going to go and buy that game. But if you had like covered packaging maybe that just said, it was just blank and maybe said explicit content, over 18s only strictly, something like that, maybe then that would get parents thinking a little more about.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Because I won't be against that at all. Not to stop young people playing great games, but, but I think there does need to be some degree of, you have to be smart about it, don't you? There is some stuff young people just definitely shouldn't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's have a look at the UK gaming charts at the moment. Top of the list is obviously Call of Duty World War II, if you can believe it. FIFA 18, obviously, second. The new Call of Duty, I want to play it, mainly because there's a level in it that is a complete rip-off of a level from Medal of Honor 1 on the PS1.
What a game.
Yeah, amazing, fantastic game. And I'm sure it doesn't do it as well, but basically you are in disguise as a Nazi officer.
Oh, yeah.
And in Medal of Honor 1 you could equip your pass, your ID pass, and you just press the fire button and it'd go like that and hold the pass up. And I always thought that was just amazing, because you could just wander around this Nazi base and they'd all be like saluting you and stuff. Yeah. And in the new Call of Duty, it's the same. You get the pass and you have to show it to people. So I thought that was, really interesting.
I like that it's kind of... I do like the World War II Call of Duty. Is definitely like something about it in the World War II. Going back to the old Medal of Honor games, I guess. Really enjoy
Call of Duty 2, I think will always be my favourite.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the Game of the Year 2017 from the Game Awards, which I cannot stand. I don't know if you've watched it.
I haven't watched it. No, I haven't watched it.
I hate everyone involved in that pretty much. So, and it's clearly like a lot of cronies. Like they all know each other and stuff. Big journos from loads of different companies. But anyway, they chose Legend of Zelda as their Game of the Year.
And I think we're gonna definitely disagree on this.
Well,
you hopefully make for quite an interesting.
You say what you think first about that decision.
Yeah, so I haven't played the game yet, but very much want to. I don't own a Switch, but have considered buying one just for this game and a couple of others, Mario Kart and the new Mario game as well. Big Zelda fan. Really big Zelda fan. Played all of the games, going right back to the old ones. Probably a couple. Ocarina of Time is possibly my favourite game ever. It's tough to pick a favourite ever, but it's right up there. Amazing childhood memories on that game. So I can understand it, and a good friend of mine has played it. And he plays a lot of games. Quite a serious gamer as well. Tends to stay away from those kind of games. Actually, he's more of sort of like plays a lot of Steam stuff and big on Rocket League and things like that.
Yeah.
And all the big sort of online games at the moment. And he was blown away by it. He said it's absolutely phenomenal.
So
the gameplay.
Can you give us some reasons as to why he said?
Yeah, so the couple of things that he cited was graphically, he thought it's a very beautiful looking game. They've kind of gone back to a Wind Waker-ish idea, but really a bit more. I would say it's a little bit more manga stylized in a way, than Wind Waker. Wind Waker were very soft.
Yeah.
Whereas this doesn't look quite as soft in the way it's been animated. And the bits I have seen of it, I think I would agree it does look like quite a beautiful game. But the gameplay was one of the things he cited, as he said the gameplay is just so seamlessly good. Like, it's almost, you're in such control of everything that's going on around you, and it just feels effortless to play. And also the way they've improved the vastness of the game with the other thing. So Wind Waker was, I think, the first Zelda to do it, where it was very open world feeling.
Yeah.
Obviously Ocarina as well, going that far back, did have an open world as such, but it was kind of like a platformed open world, because old games didn't have the capacity to
even
do
Twilight Princess was, but
yeah.
Twilight Princess had these areas that were open, but they were just boring.
Exactly. I done Wind Waker a little bit as well, even though I didn't mind the sailing. I know a lot of people hated the sailing in Wind Waker, but there were a lot of that. But he said it's so vast compared to the other ones, and actually just roaming around is incredibly enjoyable. There's lots of little things to do, things that you discover, and just from a fun perspective, he said there's probably games that do certain things better, but from an overall enjoyability perspective, which is what gaming is about, isn't it, at the end of the day? It's fun, it's all about the fun. And he said he hasn't enjoyed playing a game as much as he enjoyed playing that in quite a long time.
If he's playing Rocket League, then he probably ain't playing many games, to be honest. Let's just be fair about that.
He's come in a lot of time to Rocket League at the moment. But yeah, those were his reasons. So I can kind of see, and obviously it's a big game series, it does have a lot of fanboys behind the Zelda.
Yes,
and Nintendo indeed. In general is rich on fanboys.
What you said about it being, just general fun factor, that's fine. I can completely get on board with that if people are saying the new Zelda is just plain fun. However, it also won Best Direction, and admittedly, I've not played the new Zelda either, but I do know a lot about sort of the intricacies of how Nintendo designs games and their general design philosophy. Even though my personal game of the year would be Yakuza 0, because that series just is absolutely phenomenal on every single level and gets better and better every time, even though it actually gets bigger every time, but not in a way that the content is spread too thin. It just bulks up every single time and you get more and more content. So Yakuza 0 would be my personal game of the year. I have to mention Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, which you've seen,
I've seen that.
Our video review of. They got Best Sound Design, which obviously was a no-brainer because the sound design is just way beyond any other game, to date that's been released. But in terms of Legend of Zelda getting the award for Best Direction, the director of Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, it's just such a perfect vision that the whole idea of psychosis in a person, and the fact that they got people in and studied it, they studied the illness, all these different elements that all come together to form the piece of art that is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I think it deserved any award that it was nominated for, even though it's not my personal favourite game of the year. And it's not necessarily a brilliant game, as you say, from the fun factor, which is why obviously I will concede until I've personally played Breath of the Wild. I will concede that in terms of fun factor, that's fine. But direction, there's no doubt in my mind that the director of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice did a better job and put in more of a effort to create a piece of art. Then someone from Nintendo was just like, okay, we're making a Zelda game, let's bring all these elements from all loads of different open world games and shove them into a Zelda game without any thought as to whether they actually complemented
the game,
the very simple, in my opinion, core gameplay of Zelda, which has always iterated on previous incarnations.
And I can concede to that point of view, actually.
Hopefully you get where I'm coming from, even though we haven't played the game. So we should leave it there.
But what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to borrow a Switch from somebody and play the game, probably in the new year now, I would guess. But hold us to account. We will do a playthrough and see if either of us are swayed.
Definitely. The Switch does have a HDMI output, doesn't it?
Must do by now.
Okay, because
Surely Nintendo
I don't want to have to.
Still not
I don't
doing
want to have to buy another fiddly converter because we've already spent loads of money on them.
Surely Nintendo are doing that now.
So, Josh, what is the topic of the week this week?
So, the topic of the week this week, Jake, is games as a service.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Let me tell you it is. So, dealing with gaming giants again, EA, one of the big culprits behind this. Although I do know other big developers also. Square, Activision,
Ubisoft probably.
Ubisoft probably. All of the big guys, I'm sure. But certainly have been the ones in the news. And this is the idea that games that are developed are a service in effect. So what we mean by that is that the game itself will just continuously be updated in effect rather than releasing new games. So it's because a game is all encapsulating, you've got so many different add-ons, ways of in-game purchases and developing the game yourself further. Developers will now, rather than releasing new releases, they will just update a current game. So in effect, to use an example, Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy 15, the idea would be that after you've completed the game, maybe a year down the line, rather than developing a whole new game, you will be able to purchase a patch download in effect that will be an add-on to the game, but it will be.
Well, they have been releasing patches for Final Fantasy 15, but unfortunately, that's that's one of the worst culprits of this kind of thing, because Final Fantasy 15 was clearly unfinished in terms of story development, things like that. And another reason why it's so bad is because whenever people talk about this kind of thing, Final Fantasy 7 is always the go-to example. It's like, people always say, you never bought Final Fantasy 7 and then it was like, oh, disc 3, buy the DLC and you'll get disc 3. People always say that. So for Squaresoft to have done something like this, to release a Final Fantasy game and have major plot elements as DLC, is so wrong to me. It's like, it's their main franchise basically, and they're not doing it justice at all. Yeah,
totally ridiculous. But they're trying to paint it in a positive way, actually. They're trying to say, obviously it's not a case of it's unfinished and you can finish it by paying more money. It's it is the finished article, and you can add on to your gaming experience. You can improve and increase the service that you're getting in effect by purchasing new content onto the game forever, and it will just forever develop rather than a new release. To me, it screams absolute bullshit basically. so this is companies trying to think of a way to increase their profit margins. Developing a new game is expensive because you're starting from ground zero, whereas if you've already got the framework of the game, it's all there sorted, and all you have to do is modify it in some way and then release that as a download, or have a little add-on to it using the same framework that you've already developed for the main game. It's going to be unbelievably cheaper. You're going to be able to command multiple purchases then, from one development, one game, because you can just constantly purchase more and more for a long time. And that's exactly what it screams of to me. It's just, how can we make more money? This is in an industry that I think the gaming industry now is around $65 billion. It's absolutely massive, right? And has grown massively in the last 10 years. Mammothly. It's changed a lot, but it's grown a hell of a lot. One of the fastest growing industries, the gaming industry. And it just screams greed, doesn't it? Just pure greed. Well,
the thing is, I completely get what you're saying there, but if you think about it, the main companies that are trying to bring forward this games as a service idea are completely contradicting themselves, because they release Battlefront 1, for example, the remake, whatever you want to call it, and basically if that was a game as a service, they would have said, okay, next year, space battles, introducing space battles, pay a bit more, you'll get that.
Yeah.
What they did instead was scratch all the money you spent on Battlefront 1, releasing Battlefront 2. And it's like, if what you're saying is the case, like it's games as a service, they won't make any games, they'll just update them. That's like the opposite of what EA and Activision are doing, because they're releasing games every year. Call of Duty, every single year, and people are getting sick of like buying the same maps and stuff in the next Call of Duty game. I would actually, in a way, I would not have a problem with it if it was like, okay, you've got your Call of Duty, you will always have those maps. If you buy a map in a Call of Duty game, you will always have that map.
Yeah, and then just carry over into the new content.
Especially games like FIFA. If there was just a FIFA and it wasn't FIFA 18, FIFA 19, if there was just a FIFA, I would be happy with that, really.
Yeah, I think games where the next generation of each game is just focused on improvements in technical things.
Yeah.
So like FIFA game, you're not suddenly not playing football in a FIFA game. It's not rugby FIFA 19, is it? You know, it's basically the same game, but graphics will have improved. Gameplay will have improved a bit, hopefully. You know,
sometimes get worse.
Yeah. Functionality will have improved in some kind of way. You know, it's all technical things, basically, due to technology advancements.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it in that instance, because there's no real cry there to develop a new game. You're not developing a new game, are you? You are just improving what's already there. But I see this as a way of these developers scrimping on new release games.
Okay, so you
basically
believe that Activision will stop releasing Call of Duty as much now?
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing a total move away anyway from hardware type, from games, aren't we? From discs.
Yeah.
You know, companies are clearly trying to move away from this idea, and they want everything to be sort of digital and very quick to access, very quick to produce, in effect, and cheap. And that's why they're going to move away from that, because I think people are more inclined. Maybe I'm just old, but I like to have a disc if it's a game that I really want. Don't get me wrong, I've bought downloaded games as well, but if it's a game that I love, like a franchise that I really love, I will always 100% buy the disc version, because I want it. I want the box. I want the disc, because it's what, even though nothing comes with it nowadays, literally you open an Xbox One game and it is literally the disc inside and one piece of paper insert that's the front and back cover with the instructions on the back of it. Like, what happened to developers actually taking some pride in the art of making a game? I remember when you used to buy games and you'd have booklets like this inside, you know, you'd have an art book, an instruction book, a story book, you know, you'd have the lot, but that was the beauty of it, because it was more than just some digital content to play. It was the feeling of buying art almost.
Definitely, yeah.
And for some reason, game developers want to move away from this, but it's all about money for me, because they must understand the art in gaming. They must understand that, and it must simply be, hang on a minute, we can have a much bigger profit margin if we just scrap all this shit, and let's just make people download it for the same price. They don't
care about the art, that's the thing.
Oh yeah, well maybe they think we don't as well. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe they think the modern gamer doesn't care about those things. Maybe they don't.
Right. You're probably right.
Maybe they don't. You know, maybe they don't. But
I think companies like the idea of what you're saying, but I really do think they're too big a cowards to actually say no, we won't release a Call of Duty this year. I think they're just too big a cowards, because that's too big a risk for them when every single time they release a Call of Duty, it's gonna sell. And maybe once Call of Duty starts selling a bit less, they'll say, okay, now it's games as a service.
I would predict that's never going to happen.
You don't think Call of Duty will ever stop selling?
I don't.
Okay.
You heard it here first, but I actually think Call of Duty games, for at least my lifetime, will continue to be the number 1 or number 2.
Just one in the charts every time. Yeah.
Every year. That's my prediction.
It's possible. It's possible.
Because I think that is where now the industry has moved, and it's going to be far too big a pull, that type of game, to ever move away from it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's far more than just a game now. Because of how big online has become. What you're talking about there is people moving away from their whole social circle.
Mm-hmm.
In some instances.
Yeah.
Some people, that Call of Duty game, or FIFA is another example, that's not just a game now. That's actually their social circle.
Mm-hmm.
And if they weren't on that game, they don't have a social circle whatsoever.
I thought you were going to say they don't have friends.
No, well, in some instances, I think, yeah, to some extent. I mean, obviously people will still, but there's no doubt, is there? You know, nowadays, a lot of people, I think, I'd love to see some study on it or some statistics, but
mm-hmm.
I would guess that probably most people under the age of maybe 20, let's say, nowadays, I would estimate that more than half of their friends, they would say, are online.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, yeah.
And so I think that's why it's never going to move away from it now, because it's kind of like, it's like moving away from the city you grew up in. Most people never do it. And there's a reason for that, because you might be moving away then from all the people you actually know,
mm-hmm.
your whole friend group, if you're moving far away. But that's also the reason why I think you will see these games move to games as a service.
Yeah, because you've already got the community.
Yeah, even though they will be shit scared, because you are right, these developers are cowards. They will do it because they will look at it and just think to themselves, well, it can't go wrong.
Yeah.
People can't stop playing Call of Duty and FIFA. They just can't. It's not as easy as that. South Park should 100% do an episode on this, because just saying that right now, it sounded hilarious in my head. Like,
well, I completely disagree with you anyway. I think that Call of Duty the next Call of Duty is not going to sell very well, and the number 1 in the charts is going to be Shenmue 3.
As much as I hope that to be the case and true, for the love of gaming, I don't think it's going to be the case.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. Hopefully we'll be doing another one soon. Yeah. And thanks very much for listening.
Cheers, guys.